Today is February 27th, 2015. I just got done recording a vlog of which I am reformatting right now into a different format so that it'll be YouTube ready. And I just noticed there's some Portland police officers. There's a Portland police car parked out in the parking lot. Looks like there's two vehicles. There's a black one. There's a Portland police car right there, and there's another one. It's a black vehicle. Multiple police officers here. I've already reported and recorded on vlogs that this building is filled with sting operatives. I'd like to point out the fact, take note of this apartment area and the courtyard area around here, and take note of the fact of these multiple police vehicles right there, because there is police sting operatives that are renting apartments here. These people are guilty of murder. This building, the building that I'm in right now, which this building right here is the same type of building as that building on the other side of the courtyard there. Both of these buildings are only one-bedroom apartments. And they have a multitude of civilian sting operatives in both of these buildings, mostly this building, but they have quite a few in that building. This is my cane right here, just so you can see what it is. I know it's hard. I know this crappy camera doesn't doesn't record in a good resolution very well. You know, cheapo prepaid cell phone camera. I bought this because I can't afford anything nicer, and I'm just using this for vlog purposes mainly, and to document the daily harassment that I suffer from these sting operatives. This building here and the building on the other side of the courtyard there is peppered with civilian and police sting operatives, and they're using children in their sting operation. Each of these two buildings right here are only one-bedroom apartments. There is no two-bedroom or three-bedroom apartments in these two buildings here. Yet the police in county, the Portland Police and Multnomah County Sheriffs have multiple apartments at this location filled with sting operatives that have children, and they're using these children in their sting operations. These sting operatives direct these children. They don't, keep in mind, they're not living here. The sting operatives don't actually live here. They just taken over multiple apartments here, and then when they want to stage some sort of a street theater performance for the purpose of framing, then they just all show up for one day, and then they'll spend like half an hour to an hour and a half staging various skits where they're directing the children that they have to do various performances while they're using doubles. They're using officers that are dressed up as doubles and are impersonating people. They were doing this. They were doing this to me when I lived over on Oak Street, which is about a mile away from here, almost. Maybe not quite a mile. It seems like a mile, but I don't think maybe it's that far away. I'll guesstimate a mile away from here. I used to live on Oak Street, which is a mile away from here. And my wife and our daughters were having sexual relations with people in law enforcement, and they were poisoning me. And while I was in a severely debilitated condition, my wife and her daughter's lovers in law enforcement were using street theater sting tactics to frame me as a pedophile. And they were doing this over on Oak Street, which is just a mile away from here. They were using children in that sting operation, and my wife's lover, Officer Eric Carlson, and his partners were the male officers that were directing this sting operation. And they had female sting operatives and civilian operatives that were involved in this, and those female civilian operatives of theirs brought children to that location, and they were deliberately directing these children to hang around Officer Eric Carlson in front of my apartment while Eric Carlson was dressed like me. So they were using street theater performances and using a double to frame me as a pedophile. And I caught these people in the act of doing this, and I caught them on video and audio. I caught them verbally admitting that they were paying those brats, and I refer to them that way because they're not innocents. Even though they're children, they're not innocents because they're children of sting operatives. In other words, they arrived there on the scene. Officer Eric Carlson and his partners are already there, and when the children were brought there by the sting operatives, the children were asking Officer Eric Carlson and the female officers that were with him. They were asking these officers how much they're getting, and the officers told them how much, and a shit ton of money. And the children themselves opened their mouths and they said out loud to the Officer Eric Carlson, to this female officer, they said, "Why doesn't Shauna kill him?" So not only are these officers and these children discussing the sting operation they're working on and involved in, not only are they admitting that these children are going to be putting on these performances for their sting operation and that they're being paid to do so by law enforcement, but they're admitting it's a murder conspiracy, and they're admitting that one of my daughters are involved in this. And from this point forward, they were performing street theater performances in front of my apartment. They were hanging out literally as a group in front of my apartment, and they were deliberately ringing my doorbell and then running away, and were repeatedly slapping my window screen and running away, and were repeatedly hanging out in front of my apartment and making false accusations. And Officer Eric Carlson and the female officer that was out there with these children were directing everything that the children said and did. And I literally caught them in the act of this on video and audio. Now, they are admitting I'm their target. They're naming me as their target. They're naming my daughter Shauna as one of their accomplices. They're admitting that they're going to kill me. They're admitting that they were going to open fire on me if I went outside to confront them. And this is why they hung out in front of my apartment for like an hour and just constantly harassed me by ringing the doorbell or by slapping the window screen. This is why they were doing that. They were trying to get me to confront them. And my wife's lover, Officer Eric Carlson, is one of the people out there that's doing this. And they were armed, and they were going to shoot me if I went out there to confront them. So, police, Portland Police, and the Multnomah County Sheriff use street theater performances by a sting operation type tactics to frame and murder people. And I'm a witness to a murder that a sting operation committed, of which my wife and her daughters were involved in. My wife and her daughters were having sexual relations with cops at the time, and it was my wife's lovers in law enforcement that committed a rape and a murder. And my wife and her daughters and other female officers that were involved in that sting were responsible for a rape and a homicide. And they were trying to set me up to get the blame. It didn't work out too well for them, though, because their break-in woke me up. And thinking I was catching my wife in her affair with a cop, an armed cop, I chose not to confront them and put an audio recorder in my wife's purse to prove their affair and to prove that my wife's lover is sneaking and breaking into my home and to find out what the fuck's going on. And I basically caught them in the act of committing all these crimes, and they murdered somebody. I don't know who the person is. They named two different persons. They named somebody by the name of Jessica, but I'm not sure if that's the person they killed that morning. They named another female victim with the last name Hunter, which is a different female. And they named her as a victim, but I don't know if that's the person they killed that morning either. So I don't know who the person is that they killed. I have no idea. But I do have the officers on, and my wife and her daughter, on an audio recorder in the commission of the act of committing a murder, and then have them in the commission of planting evidence in my home to set me up to get the blame, and then have them in the commission of the act of bragging to Walmart employees about everything that they just did. And they were admitting they were setting me up as a pedo, and they were admitting that they wanted video surveillance of their female victim erased because they're on it. And they were printing flyers giving me the blame for their shit. And it was my wife's lover, Officer Eric Carlson, his female lovers, Joan Wager, and some black bitch by the name of Adrian, who is somebody in law enforcement. They were printing flyers giving me the blame. And when they got done printing the flyers, Officer Eric Carlson and my wife were having celebration sex in the back of Clackamas Walmart after they printed the flyers. And my audio recorder has all this. And my wife and Officer Eric Carlson, during their celebration sex in the back of that damn store, were actively discussing the female child they raped and murdered that morning. So there, I have them basically admitting to the act of a murder, and have them celebrating the fact that they just got done framing me to get the blame. So this is how I know what they did that morning, and how I know that they were setting me up for a homicide, and how let's just say that I have so much information that they have no intention of having a trial. They just want to wanted to make me look like a bad guy and then murder me off. It looks like this B-log is done here. These sting ops, I've been a target of sting ops ever since my wife got a job at the Multnomah County Jail Kitchen as a prep cook. She was having a sexual affair with somebody in law enforcement, and she and everybody on her side of the family became essentially sting operatives for law enforcement. I'm a victim of a murder conspiracy. My wife and everybody on her side of the family and our daughters were pounding around with and or sleeping around with people in law enforcement, and they became a part of this sting lifestyle that law enforcement has, where law enforcement has their buddies and their relatives and their clique of civilian people that they pal around with, where they work together to frame and target people and so on and so forth. And I became a target, not because I'm a bad guy, but because it was personal, and law enforcement does this to people anyway for sport. So just because it was personal on their part, they wanted to frame me for various crimes. I'm not their only victim. I just happen to be one of. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing that makes me special as far as being targeted. I'm not some political activist or some stupid ass thing like that. I'm not what you would call an important person. I'm not even really a whistleblower or anything. Although I guess you could say I am now, since I've been actively reporting this shit. But that's not the reasons. None of those reasons are the reasons why they were targeting me. I'm not a bad guy. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not a person of any importance. Just an average guy, average nice guy. And I became targeted because my wife and her side of the family became recruited into sting operations by the Multnomah County Sheriffs and by the Portland Police. Through whatever connections they have with law enforcement, they became trusted sting operatives for people in law enforcement. And because of this, they're what you can only describe as civilian undercover officers, because for all intents and purposes, that's what they are. They're completely immune to being prosecuted. You can charge these people with a crime. They won't take the complaint. Police will not arrest a civilian sting operative if you charge a civilian sting operative. So they have the same immunities, literally, that police have, meaning police simply refuse. Police don't take complaints on police, and police don't take complaints on their civilian operatives. The best way to describe them would be to refer to them as a clan. Would be the best way to describe them. My wife and her side of the family, they're not in law enforcement. They don't work in law enforcement. But they pal around with and they sleep around with people in law enforcement. And because of this, they're in the same circles as law enforcement, and they're afforded the same powers as law enforcement. And they quite literally help and assist police in framing and or targeting people. And they even assist police in murdering people. So they don't give a shit if anybody knows. They don't care if I know. They don't give a shit if I tell anybody. They don't care. They just don't give a fuck. They don't care at all. I have been harassed daily by these sting operatives. Portland Police have the control of the department directly below mine, and they have the apartment to my left and the apartment to my right. They have taken over pretty much half this building, at least, if not the whole building, or almost the whole building. And typically that's what law enforcement does in a sting operation. They take over the surrounding area for their operations. Police don't work in... The only reason people think of cops as loners is because you see cops in uniforms driving around, usually alone, in their police cruisers. So, and because people see that, and people watch TV where they show cops that are usually driving by themselves and they're dealing with whatever cop situation that they're dealing with. People are conditioned to think of cops as loners. Cops are the furthest thing from the universe from being loners. They are the most organized people on the fucking planet. And all cops work together in targeting people. And anybody that pals around and or is related to people in law enforcement, or is a girlfriend to people in law enforcement, they gang up on anybody that they have it out for. And they literally surround their targets. And they do this because they can have literally full control over the entire area. And their undercover office, they have this building filled with their undercover police officers, plainclothes police officers, and with their civilian operatives that are obviously their civilian operatives will lie for them. So this is why they do that. This is why they use sting tactics to take over the surrounding apartments, so that they have full control of the area. Now they can harass me, they can terrorize me, they can stage any street theater performance they want to for the purpose of framing me, and they don't give a shit if I know, because they have full control of the area, and everybody in this area will lie for them because they've literally filled the building with their operatives. People, I know there's an apartment manager here that lives on site at this location. Here at Misty Firs Apartments, she is a sting operative. She meets regularly with Portland Police and with County Sheriffs. Regularly. The apartment manager used to live in a building that's on the other side of the courtyard there. But after I moved into this building, and the Portland Police Department used their police powers to take over the surrounding apartments surrounding mine, the apartment manager decided to join into it and help them. So she moved from that building to this building, and she moved into the apartment that's directly next to the apartment below mine. So, like I said, the Portland Police Department has control of this apartment. The police department has control of this apartment. The police department has control of the apartment directly below mine, and they have a retired civilian cop in the apartment next door to this apartment, and the apartment to the left of the apartment below mine, that's where the apartment manager is. Now, that's called being surrounded. And the apartment manager, and I have already proved on past videos that I've posted on my YouTube channel, where when I leave this apartment and I try to go down the stairs, these civilian operatives have children, and they deliberately place the children in my path as I'm trying to go down the stairs. When I first start going down the stairs, the path is completely clear. But the moment I take my first step to go down the stairs, these female civilian operatives will take small children and they place them right in front of my path as I'm trying to go down the stairs. And they try to time it so that we basically meet at the bottom of the stairs. They try to time it that way. And I've demonstrated on video that they do this. And not only do they do this, but I proved that they try to time it. The reason why, I'm disabled. I have to use a cane to get around. I'm partially paralyzed. I'm partially paralyzed from being poisoned by my wife. And I bleed internally. I'm in a lot of pain. It's not easy for me to walk. I can't move very quickly. I could if I forced myself to, but it would hurt like fucking hell, and I would bleed internally profusely if I did. So I try to avoid moving quickly. I have to be ginger in my steps, so to speak. I can walk without this cane, but the cane helps me to take some of the weight off of my left side, and it helps to alleviate some of the pain. It's basically it's a walking aid. You know, it helps me to walk. I can walk without it, but it's more painful to walk without it than it is to use it. So I use the cane when I have to walk a long ways. If I'm just in the apartment here, I usually don't use it because I don't walk very far. I might walk to the sink and then just back to this chair, or I go to the bathroom and then I come back to the chair or whatever. I don't walk very far, and I'm usually sitting all the time. But if I have to go on a long walk, I need it. I actually need a walking aid, such as this cane, to get around. Because the more I walk, the worse the pain gets, and the more I bleed profusely internally. And I bleed internally because of the fact that my wife was poisoning me, and things inside of me exploded, and I have been unable to get help from a hospital because of police influence. The police covered up the poisonings at the hospital by having brief chats with my doctor out in the hallways at the ER. They would just make it known to the doctors to not help me, and then the doctors just simply wouldn't help me. Nobody would come in and even into my ER room and even ask me, "Gee, what symptoms are you suffering, Mr. Wager?" Nobody would ask that fucking question. Reason why? Because my doctors are too busy standing out in the hallway with my wife's fuck buddies in law enforcement. My wife's fuck buddies in law enforcement are repeatedly labeling me as a bad guy until the doctor gets the hint to not help me. And that's how they cover it up. That's how they cover up poisonings in Portland, Oregon. They were using doubles to commit crimes, and they were setting me up to get the blame for their crimes. My wife's lover, Officer Eric Carlson, he of the Portland Police Department. He is a natural brunette, but he's a damn close look-alike of me. He's not a twin, but he's a damn close look-alike. Now, I'm a blonde, and he's a brunette. Well, when my wife was having an affair with him, he was dyeing his hair blonde so that he could act as a double, and he was impersonating me and staging and committing crimes. And everybody at my wife's place of employment knew this was occurring. They knew he was acting as a double to frame me, and they knew my wife was having an affair with him. He got the nickname Double Click from everybody at my wife's place of employment. My wife worked at Eastport Walmart at the time, and her co-workers and my wife nicknamed Officer Eric Carlson by the nickname of Double Click. My wife and Officer Eric Carlson was actively using that nickname in April of 2005. They were using it verbally, and my wife was using that nickname in her cell phone contact list. And when I found out that Officer Eric Carlson dyed his hair blonde so that he could act as a double, and found out that my wife was hooking our daughters up with him, and found out that it was open knowledge at Eastport Walmart, I tried to warn people about it, and that's when my wife poisoned me. And the police department just used their power of influence at the hospital to cover it up. I had no way to get help because of it. I was severely debilitated. I couldn't walk, let alone talk. I couldn't talk. I would be lucky to manage one or two words. She poisoned me with antifreeze, and man, did that fuck me. It fucked me up so bad. I could not talk. I could not walk. I couldn't balance. I couldn't do anything. And when I went to the hospital, instead of a doctor coming in and asking me what's wrong, instead of that occurring, I would be in the ER room, laying there in severe pain, And instead of my doctor coming in and asking me what's wrong, my doctor's out in the hallway talking with my wife's lover, one of my wife's lover's buddies, who's a Portland cop, and they're fucking that son of a bitch was repeatedly labeling me as a bad guy. Repeatedly to my doctor until my doctor got the hint to not help me. And my doctor never came back into that room. He never came back in. So they chased off that doctor. And instead they had some female doctor that I have to assume is a pro-cop person that is willing to lie for cops. And this female doctor, she was pretending that I'm suffering from a hernia. And that's what she was describing what was wrong with me. And I knew damn well she was fucking lying. She was smirking while she was fucking doing that, by the way. So that's how easy it is for the Portland police. And their civilian operatives. That's how easy it is for the Portland police and their civilian operatives to frame people, and how easy it is for them to poison people, and how easy it is for them to cover shit up. Their influence is so strong at the hospital that they literally dictate who gets help and who don't get help. I was the target of a sting. My wife and her daughters were sleeping around with these sting officers. They were setting me up using my wife's lover as a double. My wife was hooking her daughters up with this double. I find out this is open knowledge at Eastport Walmart, and I tried to warn people about it, and they poisoned me. And the moment they poisoned me, I was so severely debilitated I couldn't talk, let alone walk. I was severely debilitated. And in this debilitated condition, I'm witnessing my wife and our daughters pretending nothing's wrong. They're putting on this bullshit act of nothing's wrong. And so I'm surrounded by people that are responsible for me being poisoned and are responsible for me being debilitated. And they're pretending nothing's wrong. And when I go to the hospital, I'm surrounded by, I'm denied emergency services, and I'm surrounded by sting operatives that are out in the emergency hospital hallway, and they're influencing my doctor into not helping me. I had no way to get help. They had me, if you've ever seen the Stephen King movie Misery, then you would have an understanding of what it's like to be debilitated. Gee, at least that dude in that movie could talk. At least he's able to talk. Hell, they poisoned me so badly I couldn't even talk, let alone walk. Breathing problems. I mean, you have to focus. I couldn't even breathe automatically. I had to manually breathe. I had to force myself to take a breath, because if I didn't think about breathing, I would literally stop breathing. Literally. That's how badly poisoned they had me. So just, it took every effort on my part just to breathe. And I had to stay awake day and night, because the moment I would nod off, I would stop breathing. I don't know how long that went on. I was so badly debilitated. It went on forever. I mean, if I did get naps, they would be very short naps, because as soon as I'd fall asleep, I'd just stop breathing. And then I would wake up startled over the fact that I'm gasping for fucking air, because I couldn't breathe. So I was literally in this condition for weeks and weeks, if not a couple months. I was in this debilitated condition. the whole time I'm just surrounded by my wife and daughters who were just all grins, all smirks. They just pretend nothing's wrong. The whole time they were sleeping around with the sting operatives that were renting the surrounding apartments surrounding mine. I don't know why they did this to me. I honestly don't know why. I cared about my family. I don't know why they turned on me like this, and I don't know why it's so fun for them to do this shit to people. They have no intention of giving people trials or the ability to defend themselves. They just want to vilify people and make people look like bad guys, and then they just want to murder people. And then they go to their next target. And then it's repeat. They just repeat. And then they go through the same shit. They literally treat doing this shit to people like it's a fucking sport. And they don't even give a shit if anybody knows. These sting operatives that are renting the surrounding apartments around here, these sting operatives are responsible for a fucking murder of a child in 2007. These same sting operatives shot up a bunch of people at Subi's Bar and Grill over about a mile away from here, over on Oak Street, 2 houses away from the apartment where I lived. And the entire time they've been following me. And they constantly harass and provoke me. And they do this for their own video surveillance purposes. They're like a gang of they're like a clan where they're like an organized group of bullies where they're all grinning and smirking, and they stage various skits, and they'll do this out in front of my apartment, and they'll do things that are technically illegal, like terrorizing and provoking. They'll do things like they'll tap on my wall like that. Now, that doesn't sound like that's illegal, but when they're doing it deliberately and in a coordinated manner, they're flaunting the fact that they have you surrounded. Because they've demonstrated that they have all the apartments surrounding mine, because they'll do something like they'll tap like their key or something on the wall. They'll tap their key or something like that. And then the people, immediately after that, within 5 to 10 seconds, the people in the apartment below mine, they'll do the same fucking thing. And then within a minute, the people in that apartment over there does it. So now, that is enough information for a person that's inside this apartment to know that there is a coordinated effort of people that are surrounding the apartment, that are deliberately and intentionally making it known that they have me surrounded. That's their way of flaunting the fact that they have me surrounded, and it's their way of terrorizing and inflicting terror on their victims, their targets. Now, I know I don't come across as being terrorized. I don't come across as being somebody that sounds like I'm scared or anything. I have every justifiable reason in the world to be scared, but I'm just not the type of person that gets scared. I've never ran from a fight in my fucking life. I'm used to standing up to bullies. I have a history of saving lives. If my time comes, my time comes. I don't back down from jack shit. I know they're deliberately terrorizing, and I know they want to provoke me into getting angry for their own video surveillance purposes, because they want to make me look like a bad guy. They don't want to prove me a bad guy of some sort. They just want to make me look like one. That way, they look justified in their targeting of me. And that's how they justify their actions. If they can make their targets look like bad guys, then law enforcement and their civilian operatives look justified. So that's what they focus on, and it's one of the reasons why they terrorize. Imagine being encircled. Imagine being in middle school, and you're being picked on by bullies, and there's like several of them, and they have you encircled, and they're deliberately pushing and shoving you and smirking at you and making verbal insults at you. And the moment and they're recording you while they're doing this. Now imagine getting angry at this and then raising your fist in self-defense and fighting back. And at that very moment, one of those bullies pulls out a gun or pulls out a knife and then they shoot you. Now imagine that, because that's a microcosm, a mini example as to what law enforcement is doing to me right now. They have me encircled. They're deliberately and intentionally provoking. They're doing it for the purpose of trying to get a reaction out of me. They want to record, not their provoking, they want to record me reacting to the provoking. And they have every full intention of just opening fire the moment I react. That is, in effect, what is going on right now. And I just gave you a mini example as to what it is. Now, it's much more this situation is much more complicated than that. But for all intents and purposes, that's what's going on. I'm literally surrounded by organized people that are deliberately and intentionally provoking in an organized fashion, targeting me and provoking me. And they're doing it for the purpose of getting me to react to it. And they want my reaction to their provoking on video so that they can use that as their justification for shooting me. And this is why I'm giving this warning, so that if anybody ends up being targeted by police or by their civilian operatives, this is the reason why they provoke. They have no intention of having a trial. They have no intention of when they do this to people, they do this to people with the intent of killing. They have every intention of killing me. And they want to provoke their targets for the purpose of making themselves look justified. Because they're not going to tell people they're provoking me. They're not going to show video of these organized sting operatives deliberately using organized tactics to provoke and harass and to terrorize. They won't tell people this. News media won't tell anybody that. Nobody will show video of it. The only thing they'll show is my reaction to it. And then they just open fire. And then they claim justification. This is the only reason. It's the only reason sting operatives surround their target and provoke the target. That's the only reason they do that. You're far better off not reacting to their organized terrorist tactics and to simply try to find help. If you have friends and relatives that you trust, warn people, tell people about it. Tell those people. Seek help from people. There's safety in numbers. There's always safety in numbers. These sting operatives don't fear prosecution because they have numbers on their side. Everybody in this fucking apartment area, including the apartment manager, will fucking lie for their ass. So they don't fear prosecution or anything. They're organized. They have the safety of numbers to back up their asses and to back up their lies. So you need safety in numbers in order to protect yourself and your loved ones and to keep yourself safe. There's always safety in numbers. If you don't have anybody to turn to in a situation like this, where that's the situation I'm in, okay, I don't have anybody I can turn to. I don't have any living relatives other than my daughters, and they all joined into this shit. They're literally whores for the Portland Police and County Sheriffs. They're full-blown sting ops for the Portland Police and County Sheriffs. I can't get any help from them. They were helping the Portland Police and County Sheriffs to set me up for shit. My wife was hooking our daughters up with Officer Eric Carlson while he was acting as a double, so I have no way of getting help from them. they're basically really my only living relatives I have in this area, and I don't really have any other relatives that I have any contact information with. So I'm in a situation where, and I've lost contact with friends over the years, and I've pretty much lost contact with pretty much everybody I know. They vilified me for the purpose of cutting me off and isolating me from any form of help. By vilifying me, they turned people against me without a trial. And nobody wants to have anything to do with me or associate with me because of this. And this is one of the reasons why they vilify, so that they can isolate their target from any form of help. So I have nobody I can turn to. I'm quite literally in danger at this very moment. I'm surrounded by this. They're not doing anything at this very moment right now to harass or terrorize. They did quite a bit yesterday and the day before, but today they've been relatively quiet. This is like the calm before the storm right now, and I suspect that they're going to be getting ready to do something major very soon. The date today is February 27th. I have to leave in a couple of days to go to the bank to get my SSI. Chances are they may stage something then, so they might try to kill me or something. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. All I know is it's an ongoing thing where they just continuously do this shit, and they don't care. Their tactics are just like the Klan. They're very organized. They grin and smirk while they lie for one another. They don't give a shit if people know they're lying. They don't care. They just don't care. They have no fear of prosecution. None. Calling 911 on these people don't get these people arrested. It just gets a bunch of grinning, smirking pedophile cops at your door that'll just pretend you're mentally ill, and and they smirk when they do that to make it known to you that that's how they're covering up your complaint. So they don't really try to hide the fact that they do this, and they don't care if people know. These people are murderers, and they use organized tactics to gang up on people that they target. And some of the people they target, they kill right away. Some of the people they target, they take their time framing. Some of the people they target, they frame right away. For whatever reason, I'm the one they selected to be targeted over a long period of time, because they wanted to set me up for a series of crimes, not just for one crime. Usually when law enforcement frames somebody for a crime, they tend to just frame somebody for one crime. And they do that usually when they plan on having a trial. But in my situation, because it was personal, they wanted it, and they had my wife and our daughters turned against me, and they had everybody on my wife's side of the family involved. It was personal for them. So they wanted to take their ever sweet time in setting me up, and they wanted to set me up for a series of events. And throughout the whole process, they were using a double. And I have every reason to believe that they wanted to have a big-ass trial at a certain point, but then they realized there's no way in hell they could have a trial, because they weren't really hiding the fact that they were using a double. And too many people knew they were using a double. And they already knew that I knew they were using a double. So when they realize I know they're using a double, they know damn well it's kind of pointless to have a trial, because you think I'm going to let them prosecute me and sit in a fucking courtroom in the defense chair and let a fucking defense attorney do the talking for me? Fuck that, man. They used a fucking double. I'll never stop talking in a fucking courtroom. I can describe in detail how they fucking did this shit. I can even describe in detail their mindsets behind it, because it's sport to these people. They enjoy doing this fucking crap to people. You know, they had my wife and my wife's daughters turned against me, and they were it was personal because of this, and they were taking their ever sweet time to set me up for shit. And they were committing murders during that sting operation. They weren't just targeting me. They were targeting multiple people at the same time. They didn't care. I have to document what is going on because of the fact that this is an ongoing thing. It's not. I can't describe it as one day thing where one particular thing happens. When you're targeted by a sting, you're targeted every day, and every day there's something new that you have to describe, and it makes it difficult to explain to average people who are unaware of sting operations and are unaware of their tactics. It makes it very difficult to explain how they do this shit and how they get away with it, because there's no way I can explain this without going through a chronological order of explaining it, practically step by step, and that would just, my God, my phone can't even record for that long. My phone can't even record for that goddamn long, so there's no way in a vlog I can explain, step by step how all this started and all the things that they did and all the things that they're guilty of. I mean, I can only tell it in sections, in broken sections, because, and it's almost every fucking day it's one thing or another thing, because, oh my God, just a couple of days ago they staged a street theater performance where the sting operatives were outside here, and they were staging a street theater performance where they were constantly blowing a whistle near my apartment. And they were constantly walking in front of my apartment and stopping at my door, and then they would leave when I would get up from my chair. And it's a form of harassment and terrorism, is what it is. And I actually caught them on video just a couple of days ago. I was recording a vlog just like I'm doing right now, and caught them in the act of doing this. And I charged out the damn door and got the son of a bitches on video that were deliberately standing in front of my goddamn doorway with no intention of knocking. And they had no intention of knocking on my door. They just wanted to keep standing in front of my apartment to be intimidating. And the moment I got out of my chair, they bolted. That son of a bitch was bolting towards the fucking stairs. By the time I got to the doorway there, he was halfway down the fucking stairs. So he was booking it, man. And he was with some female bitch in law enforcement, and they pulled in here in their privately owned vehicle because they're trying to hide the fact they're people in law enforcement. And basically, they're just using terrorism tactics. And there was a person from Xfinity. I think that's a cable company, I think. Or is that the power company? I'm not sure. I don't know much about Xfinity. I think it's a cable company, I think. Anyway, there was a Xfinity person that was out here. He had his Xfinity van, tech van out there. And his vehicle was parked near where these police sting operatives were parked. And he started blowing his whistle when I went out there to get these sting operatives on video that were harassing me. And I also caught on video some dude that was standing over in that direction, 3 apartments away from mine, who was deliberately looking up in the trees, acting like he's bird watching. So while these sting operatives were over here harassing me, hanging out in front of my apartment with deliberate intent to harass, and were blowing whistles, there was a sting operative 3 apartments over this way that's pretending to look up into the trees, pretending to be bird watching, and ignoring everything that these fuckers are doing while they're blowing these whistles. I mean, he could clearly see and hear me going out there and catching these fuckers on video and explaining for the video who these people are and what they're guilty of. This son of a bitch is 3 apartments down. He's deliberately ignoring everything I say and did and ignoring what they did and is pretending to be looking up and bird watching. While this Xfinity guy that was in the parking lot over here was blowing a whistle. So this is how blatant and ridiculous their street theater performances are. But they're not really trying to hide it because, like I said, they pretty much have this whole goddamn area under their control. So they'll stage any and all kinds of harassing tactics and or street theater performances, all for the purpose of getting some sort of a reaction from me so that they can record my reaction. So they constantly provoke and harass. And I can only compare it to the Klan because they have that mentality where they're just, harass and terrorize their victims and make their victims look like bad guys. That's what they focus on. And so they'll harass me until I fight back and react to their harassment. And it's that it's my reaction to their harassment that they actually want to record. Now, I've already proved on video they're doing this kind of shit, but nobody really cares about my YouTube channel. Nobody's really paying attention to it, and nobody really cares. And nobody cares that I'm a victim. Nobody cares that these people have already committed a murder in 2007. These people committed more murders over on Oak Street, and they're not hiding the fact that they're taking over entire apartment buildings in those areas for them to commit these murders. They're not hiding the fact they're doing this because news media just deliberately and intentionally looks the other way on it. So they don't fear exposure either. They don't fear prosecution and they don't fear exposure because news media lies for law enforcement's asses. So law enforcement is free to gang up and target anybody they fucking want to. And nobody cares, and news media deliberately looks the other way. So they just don't give a shit. Now, I started recording this. I didn't plan on this vlog right here, but I started recording it because I noticed that there was 2 police vehicles parked in the parking lot over here. And I wanted to use that opportunity to demonstrate or point out the fact that the department manager here is pals with people in law enforcement here, and that they do, in fact, have multiple apartments at this apartment building filled with their sting operatives. This building and that building on the other side of the courtyard only has 1-bedroom apartments, yet they have this building and that building filled with sting operatives that have children in them. That should be enough to give you a hint as to what they're trying to frame me for and what they're trying to set me up for. And that should be enough for you to know that there's a shit ton of sting operatives here, because no family with children in their right mind would live in these 2 buildings here, because these are only 1-bedroom apartments. So that pretty much gives them away as sting ops. But they don't, they know people don't ask questions like that. People don't think about things like that. So they don't worry about that sort of thing. But it's these small things that they don't give much thought to that actually give them away as sting operatives. Because they have a shit ton of apartments in both of these buildings where these sting operatives are using their brats in their sting operation, and they use their children in their street theater performances, and they use doubles in these performances.